So in the last video, we figured out we could actually implement this action listener, and we could call a method inside our class rather than creating an anonymous class. But the problem with that was, well, this is public, so everyone has access to this action performed when they shouldn't have access to it. They shouldn't be able to call this method when they're not supposed to. And I can't just go ahead and make it private because then we're not overriding it. Clashes with action performed, blah, blah, blah. Attempt to assign, this is the important part, attempting to assign a weaker access privilege private while it was public. This is not allowed. Maybe there are some stuff we could do in there, but for now, there's not. So even though we have this, it's not convenient for good programming practice because we made the visibility of something visible outside when it shouldn't be visible or callable or usable. So let's talk about that anonymous class that we made before. Anonymous class, whoops, this is the wrong thing. Let me undo. Anonymous class is good because it's just being utilized here. In this case, we only need the specific instance and only then. Now you could see here, it's again implementing action listener. It's implementing action listener as if it's not an interface, but a concrete class. And this is what anonymous class does. It's building the whole class. So you could see here, it's creating a new instance of this class, and the whole declaration or the definition of that class is within this body. Now this is great because in here, this method, action perform, is not accessible from outside. No one out there could ever call this method because it's anonymous. Okay, that's the word. It's not part of this the class beforehand. If you want, just remove this and you'll see it in action. Now it has some limitation by becoming an anonymous class. One, it could only access things from the field or local variables that are final. So if I wanted to access, let's say, these field variables, it's okay. We could go ahead and do something like, I don't know, let's print out name label, get the text. Or actually, let's go ahead and say, what was the other one called? Was a text field of some sort? I can't remember the names. Name text field. There we go. So let's go ahead and grab the text here. And this is fine. And if we wanted to, we're allowed to grab variables, local variables, so variables created inside this method, such as these or any other ones, but they have to be pretty much final, meaning they will not change value. If they change value, then we're going to have some errors. What do I mean by this? So let's go ahead here. We'll just, whatever here. We're going to create a string and we're going to give it a value. Now, if I wanted to print out this string, we could directly print it out here and it would be fine. There's no errors. I'm just going to run it. And we're going to click on this left side button too. And you could see my string is being printed and my text field as well, but it's just empty right now. Let's put some stuff, click it again. You could see here that it's printing both of them. Now, the problem comes down to when this local variable is not final. Here you're going to tell me, well, this is not final, and that is true. But because it's practically not changing, it's considered final. So if I go here, notice right now there's no red, there's no problems. If I go here and I say s equals some other values, right? You'll notice that I'm going to get a compile time error, which is saying, hey, you're trying to access a variable created in the inner class, but it needs to be final, or this is the part we were utilizing before, effectively final. Otherwise, it doesn't have access to it. We're not going to go into details why. So if I wanted to, for better precaution, I would put the keyword final here, which would make this an error and not this part. Now, again, this creating anonymous classes are good for when we have like a one instance type of thing where We want it to be unique. It's only required here. I'm not going to utilize it anywhere else. The class is being used the moment it's being created. And lastly, well, actually, I think this is good enough, right? So this is a great reason to use a anonymous class, but you could see that there is some weakness to it. One, you notice that each one of these are kind of similar, but I can't utilize the same one because I cannot call this anonymous class ever. So even though my code might repeat itself, I have no choice in this matter. Secondly, would be to be able to access things outside, which now kind of is, well, unless you really need something from local variables. Otherwise, I don't have access to them unless they're final. And this could become a problem in some of our codes. Okay. However, an anonymous class is really useful and you're going to be utilizing it in a lot of places. Why? Well, because we need to create an action listener and I don't really want to have it public. Cool. So utilize it as you go forward and you're going to get used to understanding when to utilize it and not. But you need just to get into it, practice, and understand the tool better. I'll see you guys in the next video.